Okay, so we'll just see what happens. We're going to talk about, I think, the gift of desperation, quite honestly, and where we are as parents, and how the addict seems to be taking the parents hostage these days. So if we do, obviously get anyone online, but I'll just go on with it. I know when I was in active addiction, matter, if you're in active addiction, wherever you're in active addiction, and what you are using, you get to the point using parents, they get into a situation where they will do anything for their child. Now, my mother and father never ever would have put me into a rehab at all. The last thing they would have done was put me into a rehab. But I don't want to talk on my life story tonight. I may add a couple of things here and there, but I want to talk about the gift of desperation. I don't believe that parents, and I'm talking about loved ones now, have that same, that they expect, they send their child to a rehab and their child will come back, talk bullshit, because they don't want to finish a course or go through what they should be going through. You need the gift of desperation to find a way of finding recovery, but it's finding recovery if you don't find everlasting recovery. I remember 425 going into AA and staying for 2.5 years and thinking that I was just the bee's knees and I was the best that ever walked, and I spoke at conventions and all that. But then I relapsed and went into 17 years, 18 years of total chaos. And the whole time it was my mother and my father. Hi, Duncan. Thank you again for what you did for us the other night from England. It won't be forgotten. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Cheryl. Cheryl likes playing golf. You can have a golf with around with Cyril. And so if we take our lives, like my life, I was brought up in a good home. I was brought up in a very good home. And then I played sport, and I believe sport was my first addiction. I wanted to be always the best in everything that I do. And then it started at the age of 13, playing cricket with the big boys, big men. I took a beer, and after that I enjoyed it. And, the best 3 years of my life were in Standard 8. And then I got put through to Standard 9 because of my sport. I wrote matric, and then they didn't write back. So I'm sitting with a Standard 7 certificate, but that's okay, because most of our cabinet ministers are. And from leaving school and going to the police played a major difference in my life. I became involved. I was appointed as the cricket captain of Western Province Police. I made my national colours in police national colours in cricket, and life was going well. But I knew that the alcohol was starting to take its toll, and that was as a young man. And I drank, and then I crossed the invisible line. But I first had to go through the South African Narcotic Bureau, the drug squad. Then I went to the murder and robbery unit, and that was in Empangeni. And I came back, and then the sequence of events that happened was I started hanging around with top gangsters, with the high flyers, because of my experience in the drug squad. And the one was shot virtually, you can say, in front of me, and that was massive in the newspapers, and an embarrassment for my parents, because I was embarrassing my parents, whatever I did. And when I came back, my mother was, the point I want to get to tonight is my mom was my biggest enabler. Anything that I did, my mother would cover up. So one night when she stopped enabling me, I went into a restaurant, and I knew the guy, old Joe, and I said, Joe, anything that is served here tonight, alcohol-wise, I'm going to pay for. Now, I had a hooker with me. I don't know who she was. And I had no money in my pocket. So it came to the end of the evening, and Joe came to me and said to me, Anthony, this is the bill. I said to him, Joe, phone my mother. And he phoned my mom, and it was the first time ever that my mom didn't enable me. We went to court on the Monday and sitting in the courtroom and, going up the stairs of the courtroom as an ex-policeman, ex-gangster, so-called by the media. I walked up there and I saw my mom sitting, and I thought, wow, mom's going to bail me out. Little did I know that the prosecutor called my mom into the witness box, and my mom begged the magistrate to deny me bail and send me to jail because she was watching her son die in front of her. And it was something that I hated my mom for. And I carried on, and I went to prison, and I stayed in prison for many a months because my mom refused to pay my bail. I came out of prison, and then I went to the streets. I went home to mom and I said, Mom, I'm okay now. Will you help me? And she said, no. You first get yourself sober. I had driven my mother and my father to that point. My dad didn't speak to me for many a year. My mom today, who's most people know is in an old age home and got dementia, that woman saved my life. But at that stage, I couldn't see it. At that young age, I couldn't see it. I couldn't realize what mom was trying to do here. Mom was trying to save her son's life. And I think a lot what we get here into the recovery center are mothers and fathers who are trying to save their sons' lives. That's all they want to do, but the sons don't take it to a point where they think, okay, well, I've still got the escape. I've still got something to fall back on. Mom will protect me again. The gift of desperation has gone. And so when people come into recovery here, they want to come into recovery with terms and conditions. The only thing we're going to offer you, and we can offer you, is that you will find a better life. You will find a life that you are free, that you will find a life. I remember when I lived on the streets. I lived on the streets with no teeth in my mouth, the same clothes. I was a long time on the streets. And I would sleep in the doorways of Durban, Joburg, East London, Port Elizabeth. And I would sleep in the doorways and get up in the morning off the cardboard and then go walk around and ask people, have you got a cigarette for me? It would have been a bit difficult now with no cigarettes. Have you got this for me? And I still remember putting my hands in a dirt bin and taking out anything to eat. Anything that would maybe fill a bit of the hole in the soul that was bankrupt. And I always believed that God had something in store for me, but I didn't know what. And I remember sitting on the streets and especially in the mornings thinking, which road do I take today? Where do I go today? And for rest, for real rest, I used to hitchhike. And in those days, you could hitchhike. And I used to hitchhike, say, from Durban to Johannesburg. And mainly getting lifts with trucks and all that, truck drivers. And then get to the beach of Durban. And then sleep on the beach of Durban for 3-4 nights. And the cycle was just happening over and over and over again. Until my mom came with my brother and got me out of Yilbra. I slept in the recreational toilet of Yilbra for a long time, and it was a public toilet, so it was used by men and women all night, and then all night I would go into and sleep there. I was faithless, hopeless, toothless, and helpless. And I got home to my mom, and I had to humble myself because during that time I was also the security director of a very large retail concern. And I couldn't get a job. You couldn't get a job, policeman, gangster, this and that. Couldn't get a job. And I went to Nicro, and they helped me get a job. And I'll never, such big salaries at top jobs. I got a job at Free Play Radio in Montague Gardens, where I used to put in some article into a radio that I still don't know to this day what I put in there on the assembly line. And it was humbling, and it humbled me. And in order for teachability, we need humility. And that's what I try and impress on the people here. I don't care who you are, what you are. We've had Springboks here. We've had CEOs of company. We've had lawyers. We've had doctors. That's irrelevant, because this is an equal opportunity damager. Alcohol strips you and drugs strips you. As you're looking at it, alcohol and drugs is stripping you away. And we see today that they're getting younger. With the legalization of dagga, hey, let's go smoke dope, especially now that we can't smoke cigarettes, etc. But I just got to the, you get to the point and you ask yourself, where is our youth going today? I'm in my middle 50s, so I'm coming up 15 years sober by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God, nothing else. Doesn't make me think anything special. But I wanted recovery. I wanted this so badly. And I knew what it was doing to my mother and my father. I knew that I was killing my mom and dad. And when my dad got ill with Alzheimer's, I continued to use. And the turning point in my life, I'm not going to go through all these war stories of where I went to, what I did, etc., because it's not even painful anymore. It's forgiven, it's over, it's done. It's more about the hope and the recovery. Hi, Tracy, Lijay. It's more about the hope and the recovery that we can give people. We need to encourage more. If I'm going to go and write a book, what I'm going to go write a book about my war stories. I want to write a book about recovery. This is the way you have to go. You have to eat recovery, drink recovery, do whatever you want to in recovery. Even when I was in things that you do, the passion that you put into it, the passion that we put into it, into recovery. Do I want to change? And we're finding more and more people that are coming into recovery don't want to change. They just want the key for the door. They just want to get their job back. They want to get out of a prison sentence. But the ultimate aim is not to find recovery. It's not to find recovery at all. It's to take a siesta from the drug. It's to take a siesta from the alcohol or whatever goes with it. We are seeing, that's so true, Duncan, that recovery does give you the keys to the kingdom. That's our good friend Duncan from England. See, we've got a lot from England here. We've got Tracy from Spain and Lijay from England. Lijay is our social, sorry I'm interrupting you, but Lijay is our social media manager who does all the behind the scenes work, all the pictures you see on Facebook, and all social media is done by Lijay for us. She's an absolute star. So, getting back to that point of that desperation to want recovery. I believe that a lot of people coming into recovery now are giving our parents false hope. No, Mom, it'll be fine. I just need one more chance. Just give me one more chance. And then they get that chance, and then they go back, and they don't go to meetings, and they don't go fellowship with people who are like-minded, and then they relapse. If you go to slippery places, you're going to slip. Our mess should become our message. Our test that we've been through life should become our testimony. But it's not. Because we've taken this lightheartedly. Our youth have become lazy. And we've seen it in the 11, 12 years we've been here on the farm. I get some who come in here and they've never held a screwdriver in their life and they're 26 years old. What, it be just playing TV games the whole time? TV games and mom and dad are running around to keep the peace? That's what we see a lot. I see people that come in here and moms and dads are frightened of them. Frightened of them. And you ask yourself, how can they be keeping their parents hostage like that? The turning point in my recovery or in my life was when my mom one day walked into my room and said to me, Anthony, your nephew David has committed suicide. I looked at my mom. I was coming off a bench, and I said, hey, Mom, how did that happen? Why? And he was on drugs. And I carried on drinking and drugging for 2 months after that. And I stopped 2 months after the birth of my daughter on the 28th of June, 2005. I was finished. I was weighing in at about 48, 50 kilograms. I was over. I was done. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I couldn't anymore. The drink and the drugs had beaten me. It had taken me apart. And I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and Alcoholics Anonymous and God saved my life, nothing else. I'll always be indebted to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll always be indebted to the people of Alcoholics Anonymous. They were loving me long before I could learn to love myself. They didn't judge me. All they wanted me was to listen, and I will find sobriety. And 2 years into sobriety, I was doing an interview for a newspaper, a local newspaper here, on my life, and halfway through I just said, this is not about me. Let me start something for families and for drug addicts, especially, and do it in honor of my nephew. Do it in honor of my nephew, that I saw a family break apart from the death of my nephew, and that family was my family. My family's never been the same again. My family has never been the same again. We're not the close-knit family that we were before the death of David. And I saw it destroy my sister. I saw it destroy her as the mother, the death of David. A beautiful boy, an absolutely beautiful boy. And that's when, 2 years after that, 21st of September 2007, I decided to dedicate my life to alcoholics and addicts. The knife wounds are massive in the back. One day you're the statue, the next day you're the pigeon. You can't always be right. And if an addict leaves or he runs away, he's then going to, he needs a scapegoat. Huh? And the saddest part, his parents believe it. But they have to sit with the pain. I look back and I think, what has happened since I got sober? It's been 15 years. It's been 15 years. I just wish that other people will look at it and say, I don't want to be 15 years sober yet. I'll exchange my 15 years for your 3 months. And you may think, hey, that's insane. But they don't realize that the journey is the most incredible journey to freedom. We've all got a long walk to freedom inside us. We've all got a long walk to freedom from sitting in a jail cell, from sitting in a prison, from sitting on the park bench, from being hopeless and faithless. We can rise up and we can be sober. We can find a new life. For those that are not familiar with the 12 steps, I can just touch on them quickly for people that are new to the program. This is more informative than actually discussing, and I know Kurt did a very good speech yesterday. It's just when we want to explain to the public, because we've seen the devastation. We've seen what is happening to our people. We've seen what is happening to our youth, and it's devastating. It's devastating how parents are being held hostage. It's devastating that we don't have where's the respect, morals, values, and discipline? That's gone. That's gone. And we're living in a country without respect, morals, values, and discipline. But we still have to discipline our children. If people know the steps or don't know the steps, I'll just quickly out of my head without reading out the whole thing is, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction. I was powerless. I was gone over alcohol and drugs. I couldn't take anymore. When I used alcohol and drugs, I used to think I was Al Capone. I could walk through anything. I was just a man. My life had become unmanageable. I had very good jobs. I think, we mustn't have regrets, but I think the only regret that I had, without going into war stories, is that my sporting career, I never achieved what I believed I could have achieved. And that was always a sticking point with me and my late father. The second step, we talk about the insanity. Jeepers, some of the insanity things, because the gambling, the whores, or let's call them sex workers, let's be politically correct, but we don't want to be, that all goes with it. Our youth of today are selling their bodies, whether they're male or female. They don't want to break into houses, so rather sell your bodies. It's the filth that goes with it. We'll do anything to get our drink or our drug. So the insane things that we did, we can all list numbers of insane things. And we're not going to go into that tonight because that's a thing of the past. The third step is that we hand our will over to the care of God as we understand Him. Without God, I'm nothing. And that's not being Bible punching. Because I make many mistakes and I make a lot of errors and I'm far from perfect. I'm far from perfect. And most of us are far from perfect, but it's progress, not perfection. We want to progress to a place. We don't looking for perfection. The fourth step of Alcoholics Anonymous is probably the most important, and you don't have to be an addict to actually do that, is when we take a fearless and moral inventory of ourselves. What have I done? What do I like about myself? What do I dislike about myself? Where am I? What have I done in the past? Where must I ask forgiveness? Etc., etc., etc. The fifth step we go to is that we admit to God, to ourselves and another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. When we confess, and that person who's listening to you just forgets about it. The sixth step is when we are talking about our character defects. And you don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic to have character defects. We've all got character defects. Some think they haven't got. Even our president has got character defects. But anyway. And we ask God in step 7 to remove these character defects. We work on them every day. Some days we get it right, some days we don't get it right. And then we go to step 8 for the people who don't know the 12 steps. We go to step 8 and we talk about making amends. How do we make amends? Do we make amends after a month in a rehab and say, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for all I've done? Please, man. Get real. Show them. Show them with the actions that I'm okay. Show them that the actions that you mean you are sorry for what you have done. The 9 is to make amends that you're not going to offend anyone. You're not going to hurt anyone. 10, we take our personal inventory as we're sitting here. We take our personal inventory and we say, where did I go wrong today? Was I dishonest? Did I hurt anyone? Did I show love to someone? Did I feed someone when they asked if they were hungry? And step 11, keep our conscious contact with God. Our conscious contact. There are so many beautiful people out there that want to help. There's so many beautiful people. I've met more beautiful people since I've been in recovery than any time in my entire life. I've met really beautiful people from all around the world. And step 12 to me is what we are doing. We're carrying the message to the still suffering alcoholic and addict. After having a spiritual awakening. It's not going to be the lights are going off and everything's flying out, etc., etc. No. After having a spiritual awakening, I'm going to carry this message to the still suffering alcoholic and addict. I have to go and carry it to them and say there is a hope for freedom. I've never seen an addict or an alcoholic go so low that they cannot recover. I've never seen it. I've seen a lot of people recover against all odds. I've seen a lot of people who come in, whether it's to AA or into RAEL, and people say they've got no hope. They're gone. But God knows. God could do for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. That's what's the most important part of it. That's where the humility comes into it. Doesn't mean because you want to be humble that you have to be a doormat. That'll never be. So getting to to my sobriety. What has happened in my sobriety? I've got this farm, and I must thank two people, Denise Levy and Miles October. They played a massive part. Sorry, I'm just going to have a drag of the cigarette if you don't mind. They're legal. Peter Stuyvesant read if anyone wants. And we have to keep our sense of humor, otherwise we're going to go insane. And Miles October and Denise Levy virtually bought this farm for me. And since then we've helped hundreds and hundreds of people. I've been so lucky enough to travel parts of the world. I've been to Israel 3 times. I've given a recovery meeting in a bunker in the middle of Tel Aviv. I've been to Ohio, where I was speaking in Ohio to thousands of people of Alcoholics Anonymous with Akron. I've been to Australia, where I've spoken to people. I've given a meeting in Bali on the beach. These are the rewards of recovery. These are what our kids don't want to understand, that when you come into recovery, you can't after 2 months become the CEO of Nissan. You have to work your way from the bottom. You have to be humble enough to work your way from the bottom. And once you've worked your way from your bottom, you will find that freedom. You will find whatever you are finding. We can't all be CEOs or managing directors, etc. Whatever you do, we try and teach the people here, whatever you do it with passion. Because if you can't buy passion, and you cannot teach passion. Do it. If you put 10% of the way we used to operate to get our drugs, etc., into our recovery, we'll make it. Because we can all make it. There's living proof on my farm. There's living proof who are out there that phone me and say, hey, hello, Mr. Hall. How's it? I'm 3 years sober, 5 years sober. By the grace of God. By the grace of God, that's all it is. You know, I talk about grace and I'm just so thankful that besides the travels, what else has happened? I was able to sober up 2 years before my dad passed away. And I had to give the eulogy at my dad's funeral. I'm a family of 5. But I stood up first because the church was packed. And everyone knew Anthony's history because they didn't read it in the media. Everyone knew about it. And I said to them, I'm the last person who should be talking here, giving a farewell speech for my father. And then I gave the farewell speech for my father. Because I'd cleansed myself with my dad. I'd sat with my dad on numerous occasions at his bedside without him being able to answer. And I confessed everything to my father, what I did. Every single thing. And it was amazing because there were 3 nurses there the one day. And my dad hadn't spoken for about 4 or 5 years. And I went to go sit with my dad because I knew it was coming to an end for Dad. He was a big man and he was wilting away. And I told him more things. And as I got to the door of the ward, he shouted out, Anthony, loud. And that was the last word my dad ever spoke until he passed away. That is a highlight. Yeah, it gives me a choke in my throat, but that was the highlight, that I could make peace with my father before he passed away. I've made peace with my mom. My mom, I look after my mom. Not a day or an hour goes by that I don't think of my mother. From wherever I am in the world or in South Africa, I phone her twice a day. I put that woman through such hardship. I put that woman through hell. And yet that is the woman that saved my life. Saved my life. an absolute hard but loving, strong woman. Strong woman who loved this man so much that she was willing to go to any length for him to live. Today I will care for her, and I will never stop caring for my mother. You know, the things that I've been married and divorced, I think, more times than Jacob Zuma. And I was never married to any bad people. They were all wonderful people in their own right. All lovely people. And I won't talk badly of anyone because there's nothing bad to say. It's just to open your heart up and be honest. You know, I think of the times that I used to sit on the stoep in Hillbrow or anywhere in Johannesburg or Durban and say, God, what's happening here? How far have I gone, and how far must I go? And God came through, and I'm going to say it again, and did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I've been very fortunate that some of our achievements that we've had here at RAEL, and Karen, even though we are separated, Karen played a massive role in this organization. I will never take it away from her. Karen played an immense role in this organization and helped me build it up to where it is today. There has to be credit where credit is due. I talk with that word grace, and I'll go through it just very quickly for the people. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all the where we were, and you can basically get the gist. I had it all, and I was stripped, and I went to nothing. I became a burgie. I became a burgie for almost 2 years. And that was me on the streets of South Africa. The grace, the G's for gratitude. I'm so grateful tonight to be sober. I'm so grateful to speak to a couple of people who are online and see the names coming through and thinking, hey, all have played a part in my life. I value friendship these days. I want to be kind to people. RAEL donates a lot. Because as we've seen with this virus, it's never about the money. Huh? Never. I'm grateful to be sober. I'm grateful that a man like Duncan Hall can give a concert from England and donate the funds to us. That's love. I'm grateful for the parents who drop off here a pocket of potatoes or a pocket of onions. It's never taken for granted. It's never taken for granted. I'm grateful that I have the small abode where I can help the still suffering alcoholic and addict. The R is respect, and today I respect myself. I cannot give respect if I don't have respect myself. I respect, and I can give away respect for people. And I respect people these days. I can choose my company these days. If I don't want to be in your company, I excuse myself. If I don't want to be with you, I will tell you I don't want to be with you. I don't have to be a people pleaser anymore. I don't have to be a people pleaser to get something from someone. I can be my own man at the age of 56. The A is the acceptance. I accept that I suffer from a chronic illness called addiction. I accept alcohol and drugs I will never, by the grace of God, one day at a time, never ever take again. Because I know where it's going to take me. Within 3 weeks, I'm back on the park bench and then in prison. Or other way around. The C is the courage to change. And the courage to change that I see youngsters coming into this farm and today are 7, 8 years sober. I see to myself that it takes courage to change. It takes courage to go into the unknown. It takes courage to go to a place where you say, well, I've never been there because I've been drugging since I was 16. I've been drinking since I was 20. How do I face something I don't know? And that takes courage. That takes love and courage. but mainly courage. And the E is the empathy. The empathy, not sympathy. The empathy for the still suffering alcoholic. The empathy for the still suffering addict. The empathy for the mother and the father. The empathy for the brothers and the sisters. Are they going to be given a life as well? Are we going to stop being selfish, us addicts and alcoholics, and not giving our parents the life that they deserve? Our brothers and the sisters the life that they deserve? Are we going to just be, well, I'm going to carry on doing this until I run out and I don't want to do it anymore? Or I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to change my ways. I'm going to become the person, like they say, I may not be the person I want to be, but thank God I used to be. We'll see each other again. May God keep you. May God bless you. Till we meet again. God bless you all and love you all. Thank you.